So if you're clicking on this video, you're probably wondering why this nerd grabbing the MVP while you're standing on the left side. Like, why not me as the MVP? Hello guys, it's Jeff Juju here. So in this video, I'll try to explain to you guys how you guys can increase your DPS output when you guys doing raids or whatever. And hopefully you guys can snatch those juicy MVP like you guys always want to. And everything that I will say in this video, keep in mind, is based off my experience while playing the game. So if you have something that you agree or disagree, I would love to hear it, and you can put it on the comments down below. And with that said, let's just jump onto the video. So first is probably the thing that people already know about this. People talk about this a lot, and also at the same time people tend to forget about this feature, and that is actually the tripod system. Tripod system is a huge deal when you're trying to increase your damage. I'll try to explain why. So let's just take one of Deathblade's damage skill as an example, Soul Absorber. So let's take a look at one of her tripod, the Fist of Darkness. So Fist of Darkness at level 4, it's gonna increase your outgoing damage by 52%. And at level 5, which is the max level, it's gonna increase your outgoing damage by 60%. So that is an 8% damage increase right there. And 8% damage increase is much more than you trying to upgrade your level 8 gems to level 9. That is no joke. You can just go ahead and compare it if you don't believe me. That is like how strong one level of tripod is. So that is why a lot of people always say that leveling up your tripod is like the easiest and the cheapest way for you to increase your damage in just low commitment. Because you don't have to spend a lot of gold just to like increase your tripod level. I mean, yeah, you might argue that the pound sucks and the RNG also kind of bad because it's just 10% if you're using the powder of sage. But still, for the cost, it just requires like 7 pounds, so it's not that much. You can still farm that. One tripod costs like around, I don't know, for Deathblade it might cost like 400 or 500 ish. It varies depending on which class that you play. So probably like Deathblow Striker, I remember that level 4 tripods for him might cost like 5k. But yeah, still, it's just much cheaper than upgrading your gems or fixing your engraving. And also about the RNG, what I will say is if you can transfer the tripod below 10 attempts, I will consider that as a huge win. Because yeah, you don't spend a lot of money on trying to increase the tripod level right there. So some of you are probably wondering, what about skill tripod that increase your identity generation? That is actually a good question, and probably Sharpshooter is a good example for that one. Let's just take Bladestorm as an example. So Silver Master Tripod. Silver Master Tripod, as you can see right here in the description, it doesn't really contribute that much to damage. It just serves as a utility. It increases your identity gauge generation. Yeah, that is true. But I want you guys to think the bigger picture right here. His identity is Silverhawk, and Sharpshooter plays around this identity. And his class engraving, I'm not gonna explain too much about this, but the short version is whenever you hit using your identity, it will increase the damage taken of that target by 44%. So that is a huge damage boost. And you can only use your identity whenever it's full. So the faster you fill this identity, the more often you're gonna apply this Death Strike debuff. So theoretically speaking, the Silver Master doesn't directly increase your damage, but it will make your playstyle much more efficient. And the more efficient you are on your playstyle, the more damage you can deal onto the target. Probably it's different across all classes. All classes has their own playstyle and their own way to deal damage, but Sharpshooter specifically, you want to play around your identity. Another good example is actually Snipe. This is your highest nuke as a sharpshooter, and it has a quick prep tripod right here. So quick prep tripod, same as Silver Master, it doesn't really contribute towards damage directly, but you have to pay attention about this one too. Snipe has a base cooldown of 30 seconds. Let's just assume that you don't put any cooldown gems on it. So with that in mind, you can only spam this skill every 30 seconds. So in a time span of 1 minute, let's just say like that, you can only use this skill twice. And that is like, yeah, I mean, that is okay, but not the best. With this tripod right here, assuming that you're already level 5, now you decrease that 30 second into 90 second. So you can spam this skill every 19 second. So that means in a time span of 1 minute, let's just take that example again. You can use this skill like every 20 second, something around that. And that means you can use this skill 3 times for 1 minute. And that is like a huge like damage increase in just leveling up this one tripod. So that is why some tripod, it might not look that important, but actually if you think the bigger picture right there, it is like very important. But you have to have this hierarchy on which tripod that you should go for as like very high priority, and then do the lower priority later on in the future when you have the resource to do so. This is not the most thorough explanation, but I'll just explain to you guys the general idea about tripods and how it increase your damage. Probably the next is the thing that gatekeeps a lot of people from Legion raids, or I mean raids in general, is engraving. And yes, people, it is engraving. Engraving increase your damage by, yeah, it's okay. It's a huge margin too, actually. Like for example, grudge increase your damage by 20%. So for engraving actually has like a lot of functionality. Number one is it fixes things that your character suck at, and number two, it increases your efficiency. For example, if you're doing good at something, the engraving will push it even further, so you have like higher ceiling. So let me explain what I mean. For example, my Deathblade, I'll use my Deathblade for this case. She has like high specialization with substat crit. So basically what this means, specialization increase her damage output. She has like a huge damage, but she sucks at crit because she only has like 18%. So what the engravings that I go for? The engravings that I go for is Adrenaline. Obviously Adrenaline because it's gonna increase your crit rate. That is why I run Adrenaline. And then I run Ambush Master and Grudge to increase that damage even further. So you have to have that thought process before you choose a specific engraving. And you have to choose the most optimal engraving for your class. So let's just put Adrenaline as an example for this one. Adrenaline gives you like a slight attack power increase per stack, and if you can maintain that stack, it will give you like crit chance increase. So that is a good engraving overall. You can just use Adrenaline on every single class that you want, but there's a catch right here. Not every class can utilize Adrenaline at its fullest potential. Let's just put Deathstrike Sharpshooter as an example. Deathstrike Sharpshooter has high crit chance because he pumps a lot of crit onto his stats, and second of all, he has a very high uptime. So if you put an Adrenaline on a Deathstrike Sharpshooter, there's two problems right there. Number one, he already has like a very high crit chance, so you might over crit if you put a Adrenaline, because if you over crit in a class or in your build, you won't take any advantage whatsoever from that over crit. So it's usually just a huge waste right there. And second of all, Deathstrike has no mechanism to maintain that Adrenaline stacks. So it's very unreliable for him. I mean, he can probably build the stacks and then drop his nukes later on, but it's very unreliable for him to do that. So that is why most of the Death Strike sharpshooter doesn't play with adrenaline. So each class has their own like specification on what engravings that they usually go for. And before you max out a specific engraving, I highly recommend you to do a research about it and make sure that you max out the most optimal engraving for your class. And also another thing is, if you already reach like 14, 15, 4x3 engraving is the way to go these days. I mean, if you can go 5x3 engraving, that is actually much better, because the more engravings that you have, the more damage that you will deal. But still, 4x3 engraving, in my opinion, is completely fine, especially for alts, because you don't want to burn so much money on alts. So 4x3 like is the bare minimum that you should go for. I mean, yeah, you can argue that 3x3 can still do a good amount of damage, but you might lack a little bit of damage and you might not be able to skip certain mechanics, for example like Baltan triple counter or the Vika's invisible will, which can cause rate wipe in some party, because if you cannot execute it properly, yeah, it's very lethal. So it's just better for you to go 4x3 at 14-15 eye level. It's just to help you guys out and make sure you guys have the fun experience while doing raids. So next one is gems. Gems are straight up damage. I don't think I have to explain it any further, because probably you guys already noticed it. So gem has like two types. You have the attack gem and also the cooldown gems. It's really simple. The attack gem obviously increase your damage by a certain percentage depending on which level that you have. The cooldown gems actually increase your damage too. It's actually very simple. If you have more cooldown reduction, that means you can spam the skill more often, and that means you can deal like more damage. The more skill that you can spam, the more damage you will deal. Simple as that. Probably this is not like the most important gem. What I mean is cooldown gem, because it treats like differently depending on the class. For like Deathblade, it doesn't really matter because your identity will do the trick anyway. You have like skill cooldown reduction on your identity. Probably on some classes, like for example Deathblow Striker is very crucial, because you want to have like high cooldown jump so that you don't feel clunky on your rotation. So yeah, like I said before, it depends on each classes. So yeah, you have to keep in mind on that one. So this is like a small FYI if you guys don't know this, but if you upgrade your attack gem from level 8 to level 9, it will increase your damage by 6%. It's not like the previous one, which only increased like 3% per level. And from level 9 to level 10, it will increase by 10%. So upgrading above level 8 is much more beneficial. It's not like you don't have to upgrade your gems below level 8, but you will gain much more value after you upgrade it above level 8. That is what I meant. So gems are the safest investment in my opinion if you're trying to increase your damage, and I'll try to explain why I said that. So game has meta, and meta does change sometimes. You won't know the future, right? So if the meta changes, you probably need to change your skill build, or you just need to change your playstyle a little bit. If your skill build changes, then you need to redo your tripods. And if your playstyle changes, then you need to redo your engraving, which is kind of sucks, because buying engraving and doing tripod might cost you like a lot of money. But for gems, you don't really have to do that. Let's say you have like level 10 gems, okay? I'll give you an example. Let's say I have like gems on Soul Absorber at level 10. And for whatever reason, if in the future I want to play like Death Sentence instead of Soul Absorber, all I have to do is just go to the nearest gem NPC and refacet that skill to like Death Sentence. Simple as that. You don't really need to do anything for gem. Probably you will spend like some silver, but yeah, it's just silver. You can just farm that easily. Having gear set is also a good way to increase your damage, like both legendary and also relic gear set. gonna give you like a huge boost. For example, legendary one, you can go for Argos gear set or Demon Beast Strength, which is the best like legendary gear set that I can think of, because Argos give you like crit chance, Demon Beast gonna give you like damage boost. So yeah, you can choose either one of them. The relic gear set gonna give you like huge, like massive boost of damage compared to the legendary one, because let's just take an example of Entropy. Entropy, the 2-set bonus is gonna give you like a free keen blunt, 4-set bonus is gonna give you like crit rate, 6-set bonus is gonna give you like damage increase. So that is basically a free keen blunt, precise dagger, and also grudge without any drawback. That is how strong a relic gear set is. Probably if you're a hitmaster class, you won't use Entropy, because Entropy only applies for back attack or head attack classes. If you're a hitmaster, you probably want the Nightmare. If you lacking a little bit of crit, you can go like Hallucination, and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm not gonna explain all of the relic gear set like in details because it's gonna be super long, but point is, if you can go for relic gear set whenever you reach like 1445, you must go for it, because it's a huge boost in terms of damage. And also make sure you guys do a research before you go for a specific gear set, because for legendary, especially legendary, if you craft the wrong gear set, it will slow your progression down, because you have to change into the correct one, right? So you don't want that, and also you're gonna spend gold because of that for no reason, so you don't want to do that. For relic gear set is much more leeway, sort of speaking, because if you, for example, you craft the wrong gear set, you can just dismantle it and it will be refunded the same amount of mats that you spend for that relic gear piece. So yeah, that's about relic gear set. And also, if you're already like 55 Demon Beast Bone or 55 Covetous Wing, you can just do the conversion thing. That is also helpful. So the last thing that you can do to increase your damage is by fixing your mechanical skill. Yes, people, the way you play your class is actually very important. If you play your class wrong, no matter how many engravings that you have, no matter how high your tripod level is, no matter how high your gem level is, you won't do any damage. If you're getting pushed over and over again when you play your class, you will do 0 damage. If you cannot land your skill properly, you will do 0 damage too. So it's very important to recognize what your class is and how to actually play the class. Some class has a specific like rigid rotation that you have to follow in order to deal the maximum damage. So Glaver is a very good example, because as you can see right here, one of her skill is called Half Moon Slash, and this skill, it's gonna consume 20% of your dual meter, which is your identity. So if you consume that meter, it's gonna increase your damage by certain numbers. And if you don't have the meter, it won't have that damage increase right there. So if I press D, the meter is gonna goes down right there, and it will consume the meter, but it will increase the damage output right there. So you want to cast this spell on mid combo, not in the beginning of your combo, because in the beginning you won't have like any dual meters, and then you cannot have that 90% damage increase. And also another thing that can decrease your damage output is if you're getting pushed over and over again, or knocked down, whatever you want to say it. I usually say it pushed. So if you're getting pushed over and over again, that means you're gonna waste like 5 seconds lying on the ground. If you have a spacebar, then that is good. You can just nullify that effect, because yeah, you can do that. But if you don't have a space bar and you're just lying on the ground, that means you're gonna waste that particular time just not doing anything. And if you're getting pushed over and over again, yeah, you can imagine how many times you spend just lying on the ground. That is why you want to be able to not getting pushed. And that requires like knowledge of the game. You have to know your immunity, sort of speaking. So there's three level of immunity: paralysis immunity, push immunes, which is the tenacity usually. For example, on my Dark Exile, and the last one is status ailment immunity, or CC immune. That is the highest level of immunity. They cannot do anything to you because you can move freely on that particular time. So you have to understand this immunity, and if you can utilize it at the maximum potential, then you are less likely getting pushed or getting CC'd by the boss or by the enemy. So yeah, you can learn this like by experience. The fastest way to learn this is actually by doing PvP. Probably you guys gonna hate me because I say this, but yeah, if you do PvP, you are more likely to learn this immunity much faster, because you can abuse this to not getting pushed. If you're getting pushed in PvP, you're more likely gonna be dead, and yeah, you don't want that. So yeah, learn your immunity. The other way to learn this is just by doing raids in general, because the more raids that you're gonna do, the more you're gonna understand your class, and the more you're gonna realize which skills are safe to use and which skills are not safe to use during a particular time. And also another thing is about knowledge. Yeah, I think you need like certain knowledge about the boss. For example, like in Vicus, there is the electric pattern, whatever you want to call it. I usually call it electric pattern. On the electric pattern, she usually CC everyone's around her, but on the second and the third attack pattern, she creates a donut where the area beside her is actually safe, and you can DPS and squeeze a little bit of damage right there if you want to. I mean, you don't have to like squeeze damage if you're feeling not safe to do so. Yeah, you can just walk away. But yeah, that is like a good opportunity that you can do to like deal a slight amount of damage onto the target. So the more you know about boss attack patterns or how to engage the boss properly, you will be more efficient in all of your attacks, and you will more likely land all of your attacks. This is especially important for Igniter Sorcerer, because I have seen a lot of Igniter Sorcerer miss all of their spells, which is very annoying to watch. And yeah, I mean, you need to learn a little bit about this one so that you don't miss your spell. So those are the few tips that I can give to you guys to improve your gameplay. Some of the topics we barely scratched the surface, and we can dig more into it because of how complex it is. For example, like the engraving system or the tripods. Yeah, probably I can make like a separate video in the future about that specific topic. But yeah, that's about it. My suggestion is for you guys, if you really want to fix like what I just said right now, you can just fix it one by one. You don't have to do it all at once because it's gonna burn your money. I mean, if you have the resource to do so, then by all means you can go for it. Go ahead. But yeah, just fix it one by one. Probably start with the trap pots, or just start with the gems, or start with the engraving system. Anything that you feel most comfortable with. Hopefully this video is helpful for you. If you do so, don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe for more content like this in the future. I also stream on Twitch on daily basis, so don't forget to follow me there for more live gameplay. And as always, people, thanks for watching, and I see you guys on the next video. Peace.